Hello children, welcome back to the other session of science. Today I am back with the chapter number 3, which is separation of substances of your course book Science Horizon Class 6 by Amit Publishing House. So let's see what we are going to learn in this chapter. And the chapter contains pure substances and the mixture, types of mixture, separation of components in a mixture, methods of separation, and the concept of solubility of substances. So are you all excited to learn about these? So let's start, right? In nature, we find the most substances are mixed with the other substances forming mixture, right? So most of the two or more substances are mixed. So this is called mixture. You also have seen different kinds of mixtures at your home that you eat. Namkeen, right? So it has different types of namkeens that are added together. So this is called mixture, right? So mixture is when the two or more substances are mixed together. Some substances may be harmful for the health, but some are good for us, right? Different methods are used to separate. Sometimes it happens that mistakenly the two or more substances are mixed together. So that we need to separate these substances. So some different kinds of methods are being used to separate these substances from a mixture. So before discussing these methods, let us understand the term what is pure and what is mixture. So we will learn about the methods how to separate the things, but let's understand first what is pure form of a product and what is the mixture. So now pure, it is a single type of component or a one type of component. For example, wheat flour, right? It is the single component, right? So it is called the pure form. But if a substance is mixed with two or more such types of components, so this is called the mixture, right? So it is the mixture. So two and more components are mixed. So now you know what is pure form and what is mixture. So now we will concentrate on the mixture. Pure is so already you have the product, you don't need to separate it. We need to separate only the mixture, right? So type of mixtures, there are two types of mixtures. First is uniform mixture and other is non-uniform mixture, right? Uniform and non-uniform. Now let's see what is uniform. A uniform like salt and water. This is the example of uniform, means you cannot identify. You cannot able to see where is salt, right? It is dissolved completely. So this is called uniform. You cannot see it separately. But if you take the sand and water, you mix it, can you identify it? Yes, if you let it settle down for some time, you'll find that sand is settled down and the upper layer is water. So you can easily identify. So this is called the non-uniform mixture. Another, it is a tea. Tea is again a uniform mixture. We have put the sugar, we have put the tea leaves, we have put the water and then milk and then we are boiling it. Then it is, tea is prepared, right? So this is the uniform mixture. So now, have you understood uniform mixture and non-uniform mixture? First we have studied about the pure form and then the second term was the mixture, and in mixture we have learned the uniform mixture and the non-uniform mixture. Now, mixtures are called uniform mixtures or homogeneous mixture. We call them homogeneous mixture also. The another name of the uniform mixture is homogeneous mixture. For example, a cup of tea, milk, juice, lemonade, right? Now, in some mixtures, the components are visible by we can easily identify it. So, these are called non-uniform mixtures, right? Or we can say heterogeneous mixture, right? These are called heterogeneous. Here it is homogeneous. Now, non-uniform mixtures are called heterogeneous mixture, right? Where you cannot identify through your eyes, right? Let a mixture to sand and water stand it for some time. After some time, you'll notice that heavier sand particles are settled down and water is the again it is the different layer sand and water. So this is called what? This is heterogeneous mixture or non-uniform mixture. So let's move and see separation of components of a mixture. There are many natural occurring and man-made mixtures. Some are mixed by the nature and some are mixed by the man, which cannot be used as such. We cannot use it. We need the pure form of a material, right? We need to separate their components, but let's know why we needed to separate it, right? There are certain reasons that we need to separate the mixture. Let's see. First is to remove undesirable substances. The substances that we don't need or these are harmful for us. So we need to separate it. For example, before drinking tea, we separate tea leaves from it using a strainer. You all must have seen this strainer, right? Your mom are using this in the kitchen, right? So the strainer, we use it to separate the undesirable things, which is tea leaves. If we drink it without filtering through, so what will happen? These are harmful for us and it doesn't taste good, right? So filtering tea using strainers and the separation of components of a mixture is very important to remove the harmful and undesirable substances from the useful things. So that is why we need separation. We need to know the methods of separating so that we can remove the substances that are not needed by us or harmful to us, right? Now, why we needed again a reason to get a desirable substances. Some components are separated on the basis of what? On the shape, on the size, etc. Usually, when you go to the market, you'll find some the different types of potatoes are there, vegetables, the fruits. They are kept. They are separated according to their size. Mangoes and apples of same size of vegetables are kept at different places, right? So we use it, the desirable substances. Some kinds of fruits are mixed, right? So what will happen? You need to separate it. Mango, lychees, and plums, guavas, they are mixed, right? You need to separate it because you won't be able to sell it together, right? I am going to purchase apples and these are mixed with lychees, with the mangoes, with the watermelons. I will not buy it. Definitely I need apples. So what the shopkeeper is doing? Shopkeeper is separating these things because the fruits are larger in size, so it can be separated easily, right? Now, the third reason is to obtain pure substances. You may have seen separation of fresh fruits and vegetables from the rotten or the spoiled fruit and vegetables. It gets spoiled, right? You cannot consume it, the spoiled or the rotten fruits or vegetables, and other food items that are not fit for us, right? So you need to separate it. But it won't happen that you will throw everything out of your house. You need to separate the rotten one and the uh, which is not fit for us, not good for us. You need to separate. You just throw it away, and rest, which is good, you can use it. So that is why to obtain the pure substance, we need the separation method. Also, grains are separated from dirt, from stones, etc. You cannot eat it, the pulses with the stones, right? And the cereals, right, which have the impurities, stone, dust, because it is harmful for us, right? So we need to separate it. For even the smallest fraction of impurities, it is separated. So we separate solid, liquid and gases upon their properties. We cannot use the same method in all states, right? We have different methods to separate the solid, to separate the liquids and the gases as well. So let's see the method of separation. Depending upon different properties of a component or mixture, different methods are used. So broadly it is grouped into four. What? Separation of solid from solid. Some solid substances are mixed, right? Two or more substances can be there, but they are solid. So you can separate. You have different methods of separation. Now, separation of insoluble solids from liquids. Some solid substances that are not dissolved in water, and it is mixed with any liquid, not only the water, with any liquid. So there are some different methods. Separation of soluble solids from liquids. Now, and the last one is use of more than one method to separate the mixtures, right? What happens? The solid to solid first, and liquid, solid, the metals, the substances that are in solid, either they are soluble in water or any liquid or insoluble. So we have different methods to separate soluble and insoluble in liquids. And the third is how we separate if the different types of substances are used. So we apply different methods, not only one method, maybe two or three are applied to separate all the things, right? So let's see the separation of solid from solid, right? We have two or more solid substances that have mixed together by mistake, right? Or by the nature. We separate solid from solid usually on the basis of different color, size, weight and needs. So let's see how we can separate solid to solid. Again, we have different method of separating solid to solid. But first method is hand picking. Now, what is hand picking? We are picking the impurities by our hand, right? That is why the name given hand picking. In this picture, you can see the rice. Some stones are mixed with rice or with pulses. So what we are doing? We are separating, we are picking these impurities and throwing it out. But there are certain conditions by which we can apply this method. What all are these? But the impurities must be in the small quantity. It should not be in the large quantity because पूरा दिन निकल जाएगा उसको separate करने में ही. So we need the mixed material must be in the small quantity, right? And the color of impurities, the shape of the impurities must be different altogether so that we can easily identify it, right? Rice is mixed with sugar. Both are in the white color. Can you identify it? It will take so much of time, right? But if the stones are there in the pulses or in the grains, in the cereals, you can easily identify it and you can pick it, right? So, different size, color or shape of desirable and undesirable components that is needed by you must be in a different, either in a different shape or in different color or in the different size, that only you can easily identify the undesirable thing, right? अदरवाइज सब मिक्स हो गया कैसे ढूंढ पाओगे इसको? इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट, पूरा दिन निकल जाएगा एक ही एक्टिविटी को करने में, राइट? The components to be separated are large and easily distinguishable, right? And the quantity must be less, right? पूरा इतना बड़ा इतना बड़ा एक heap है, you cannot hand pick the impurities out of it, right? So this is hand picking is being done. We are picking the impurities with the hand. So this is the method, like we do it. Small stones, broken grains and husks are separated from what? From rice, wheat and from pulses. So have you understood this method, kids? Very good. Now move on to the next method, which is threshing. Yes, threshing. Threshing is used by the farmers mainly, right? This is when the crops are being harvested, right? So harvested crops such as wheat, maize, rice, etc. Grains are connected with the stalks, right? A single stalk had lot of seed grains, right? So the grains that are attached with the stalk needs to be separated. We cannot eat it like this. Are we eating the stalks of wheat or rice? No, we need to separate it. But a single stalk has lot of grains in it. Is it possible to handpick these grains to separate it? No, it is not possible because it is time consuming. So how we are doing? We are using this method. Which is this method? This is threshing. How do we do it? We have to separate them from the stalk by the threshing, and there's a bundle of stalks, kids. So we tie a bundle and then we just throw on some hard surface, right? And through this, the grains are separated from the stalks, right? Manually by beating the bundles of stalk that are attached with the grains, we are beating these stalks and the grains are being separated, right? But here in this picture, it is clearly visible a man. He is having the bundle of stalk in his hand and he is beating on the ground or any hard surface. It can be a stone too, right? He is beating and the grains, the seed grains are being separated from the stalks. But this can be done, he is doing manually if the quantity is less, right? It can be done manually, but the threshing is being done by the bullocks also, right? The bulls are walking on the stalks and with the pressure, the grains are being separated from the stalk. Now in the large field, what is happening? We are using threshers because it is not possible to do it manually or with the help of bulls. It is thresher is being used for this, for the separation of grains with the stalk, right? Here you can see in this picture threshing by machines, right? So have you understood? Again, Remember this, we are separating solid to solid. Stalks are solid and the grains are again solid form of substance. Right now, hand picking and the threshing we have seen. Next method is winnowing. Right. So what happens again? This is being used mostly. It is being used by farmers, but we are also doing it home in the small quantity. Now, what is winnowing? Is the grain that is obtained from the stalks. Now, stalks are separated and the grains are separated. But do you think can we use directly this grains? No, it is having husk or chaff in it, right? Husk or chaff in it. Chaff or husk is what? It is the covering of grain, right? A thin layer which is uh, the what do you call wheat grain or rice grain or the maize grain. They are covered with the thin layer, right? It is covered with thin layer, and this layer again needs to be separated. We cannot eat the grains like this, right? So this is called the chaff or the husk. We need to separate the chaff or husk again with the seed grains. Now how we will do it, kids? We will apply the process of winnowing. Here in this picture you can see a person, he is separating the grain with the husk. How do we do it? We take a quantity of grains with the husk and we just like move it, right? The chaff or the grain, we move it, we take in the large quantity, and with the help of wind, what will happen? The husk will float away and the seed grains will fall down vertically just closer to the winnower. A person who is doing winnowing or separating husk with the grain, who is winnower. So what he is doing? Let's study. Broadly we have understood how this happens. So let's study what is written in this page. The chaff is lighter in weight as compared to grains. Why this is happening? How the chaff is being separated? Because the husk is lighter in weight and the grains are heavier. So that is why it is falling down just near the winnower and the husk is separated or blown away by the wind. So the mixture of grains and chaff is made to fall from a height, right? He is doing it. He is what? He is throwing the grains. He is letting it fall down from the height, right? So this is the heap of grain and here you will see the chaff, right? From the height, the husk or chaff particles being light in the weight are blown away by the wind and make a heap at some distance, right? It is being separated with the help of wind. The grains being heavier fall vertically down just near the winnower, right? We get two separate heap. We get two separated heap. One is the grain and another is the husk. So one of the husk and the other is of the grain. Now, what is the use of husk? Why we are separating it? First, husk is harmful for us, but it acts as a fodder for animals, right? So this can be fodder for animals, and this method is separation for lighter components with the heavier components, right? This is method we are separating the lighter and the heavier components. So now you have understood what is winnowing, right? This is again solid to solid, right? Next is sieving. Fourth method is sieving. This method is used for separating the components of mixture on the basis of the size of the particles. You all must have seen See, right, at your home, what happens? We are separating the two different size of substances, right? As the sieve has holes into it, right? And it is having of different size, right? Different size, different kinds of sieves are there. The process of performed through a sieve, a mash which has holes through it, that allows smaller particles of the substance to pass through it, and what happens? The bigger particles are left on the sieve, right? Then you can see we use this kind of sieve while we are frying the things, like samosas. Samosas are on sieve, right? This is sieve. We use it for separating the tea leaves from the tea, right? Here we are separating the flour with such kind of impurities, different like stones and other kind of impurities, right? So this is the sieving method. And not only at homes, the sieves are being used at the construction sites also. How? They are separating the stones and pebbles from the sand, right? Here you can see it's a big sieve here. A person, he is throwing sand. Impurities means sand which is mixed with other impurities, stones, pebble, and different kinds of impurities. He is throwing, he is using the sieve, so the bigger particles are left on sieve and the small particles have fallen down. So this is the way we can separate the two different types of substances. Got it, kids? Now let's see. We have understood the four methods of separation from solid to solid. Now the separation of insoluble solid from liquids, the solid that are not dissolved in liquid, right? So we can separate them. The method is based on the difference in the solubility and the heaviness of the compounds. Two things work here. First is solubility and second is the heaviness of the substance, right? It involves what? It includes sedimentation, decantation, loading and filtration. Again, four methods, right? This method is used for mixtures like mud and water, chalk and water, etc. Let's see how we apply these methods for separating the insoluble into liquids. First is sedimentation. You all must have heard in the previous classes about the sedimentations, right? In this process, the heavier particles of the substance which are solid and insoluble in water, what happens? It settles down at the bottom of the container and water stands over it, right? Here in this picture you can see some sediments. This is the process of sedimentation, some impurities, but it should be what? It should be insoluble and the sediments must be heavier than liquid, right? These two are the requirements to separate or apply the sedimentation. So if the impurities are heavier than liquid, then only we can separate with this method, right? The process of setting off heavier components at the bottom is called sedimentation. The heavier substance or the components that settle down at the bottom of the container is called what? It is called sediment, and the water which is left, it is called supernatant. Particles separated, it is suspended in water, right? So what happens? The particles, like you can take again the sand and water and mix it and now let it rest for some time. The sand particles, because sand is heavier than water, isn't so? So it settles down. So this is called sediment. The sand is sediment and the water is supernatant, right? So we can separate supernatant with the sediment with the process of sedimentation. Now let's see, particles settle down at the bottom and we can separate it, right? Have you understood the sedimentation, right? So next process is loading. As I told you, to separate the two insoluble impurities with the liquid, the sedimentation we use it when the insoluble or the solid are heavier than water. Now, if what happens if the impurities is not heavy than water, then what we'll do? We add some alum into the this water, and what will happen? It will make the impurities heavy and then it settle down, right? This process is used to speed up the sedimentation, right? Muddy water contains very fine particles, right? Muddy water has fine particles as compared to the sand. These particles either remain suspended in the water or take long time to settle down. So, to speed up this process, we add what? We add alum and we make these particles heavy, right? Adding substance called alum to the mixture. Alum sticks to the fine particles and makes them heavy so that it can easily settle down at the bottom of the container and we separate it. Now, you got to know what is sedimentation and what is loading. Now, the next part is decantation. Now, you have two layers of impurities, liquid and the what? And the sediment, right, which is left down. Now, we need to separate these two. This process is called decantation. The separation of sediments from the liquid is called decantation. Now, the sediment settle down, the supernatant water is poured into another beaker carefully without disturbing the sediment. This process is called decantation. Now you can see here are some impurities. We will not say impurities now, we'll say it sediment. It is sediment. We are separating the supernatant with the sediment, right? We are not disturbing or not shaking it. Now we are not disturbing the sediments and carefully we are pouring the supernatant into the another beaker or in another container. So this process is called decantation, right? We have learned what? We learned the sedimentation, loading and decantation. Now filtration is again the methods of separating the solids from liquids, right? But the solid must be insoluble in liquids, right? So, filtration by sedimentation and decantation, a liquid mixture is not completely separated from the sediment. For further separation, filtration is being done. Common example of filtration, we see the tea through the stainer. Like this is again the method of filtration. We are separating the tea leaves from the tea. But for wider use, these stainers cannot be used. For example, to separate mud from muddy water, a particular type of paper which is used, it is called filter paper. We use filter paper to filter such a fine particles which is not separated by sedimentation, loading and decantation, right? It has small pores. This filter paper has very smooth. As we have seen in the sieve, it has big holes. Now in the filter paper, it is very small pores in which it allows the liquids to pass in, and what will happen? The sediments will stay on the filter paper, or the solid particles will stay on the filter paper. Here in this you can see this is the funnel, and in the funnel we have kept the filter paper. Now we are pouring mixture of insoluble solids and liquids onto it, right? Muddy water, or after decantation the water, uh, you are pouring this into this funnel, in which we have already kept the filter paper. You can see that water insoluble things are left on the paper, on the filter paper, and the clean water, all the clear liquid is coming down, right? So the impurities that are left on paper are called residue. We will not call it impurities now, we will call it residue. This is the residue that we get after filtration. Now this liquid is cleared, right? So this is the process of filtration. The process of separating an insoluble solid from liquids with the help of filter is called filtration, right? Now filtration of muddy water. How we'll do it? Take a filter paper and fold it twice and put it into the funnel, as we have seen in the last diagram. When open it to make a cone and place it on the funnel. Now keep the empty container or beaker on the lower side of it. Like you can see, we have kept a beaker, right? Now we put the muddy water on the funnel, on the filter paper. Clear water will come out and the residue will be left on the paper. The similar manner, many insoluble solids are separated from the liquids. For example, sand is separated from a mixture of chalk and water. Juices is separated from the pulp. I'm sure you all of you don't like to drink juice with pulp. If you want to separate it, we'll use it. So this method, which is called the filtration, right? Have you understood, kids? Very good. Now see the cheese making at home. Your mother must be doing or keep on doing on regular basis in the kitchen. You all like to eat paneer. Ask your mother how she makes paneer. What is the process? So let's see. We'll do some cooking also. Like in a liter of boiling milk, a few drops of lemon is added. Now the lemon juice acts on the milk and produces what? Some solid particles. So paneer, when you add lemon into it, it reacts with milk and some solid particles you would be able to identify in this clearly. The liquid is separated by filtering the material through a cloth. How we will filter it? We will pour all the material with this liquid with the solid particles and with the help of cloth. What will come? The water or the liquid will come down, and what is left? Paneer will be left in the cloth. Right? So this is called the cottage paneer, and it is very rich in protein, and we all know the growing child needs more protein, right? So this is how we separate the solid insoluble from liquids. Now the next is separation of soluble solids from liquids. We have earlier when we were discussing by the different types of methods of separating, right? We have grouped them into four: solid from solid, insoluble from liquids, and soluble from the liquids. Now this is the third one: separation of soluble solids from liquids. To recover a dissolved solid components from a liquid, we use evaporation and condensation. Two methods we apply: evaporation and condensation. For what? For the solids that are dissolved in liquids. Don't worry, we will understand this. You are not getting my point, we will discuss in detail. Now, what is the method of separating these two? This is evaporation and condensation. Evaporation. First, we will discuss about the evaporation. This is the method used to recover the dissolved solid components from the solution. Now, why we are using this solution word here? Solution, as we have discussed earlier, solution is when a solid is completely dissolved in any liquid, and this is called solution. Now we are applying the method to separate these components, means we are separating components from solution, right? So let's see how we do it. We apply the method of evaporation. We all know what is evaporation, right? On heating continuously, the liquids, wait a minute, right? On heating completely, the liquid components convert into steam and disappears completely. When you keep on heating, suppose you have kept a glass of water in a container on the burner, and the gas is turned on, then it will boil. First the liquid will boil and it will start evaporating, right? Evaporating. And what will happen? After some time, the water goes off completely, means evaporated. Now, the steam and disappears completely, leaving behind the solid component in the container. Let's take the example. The process of evaporation is used on a large scale to obtain common salt from seawater. Yes, we use seawater to separate salt out of it, and we put the salt where? The cooking, when we are cooking. So how we obtain this? Seawater, as salt is naturally present in them. To obtain salt, the seawater is collected in a shallow ponds called salt pans, right? So these are the salt pans in which the seawater is collected and it is left there, and the water gets evaporated with the help of sunlight, and it keep on evaporating. And what will happen after some days? What you will see, that seawater is completely evaporated, and what is left behind? The salt is left behind. Now we collect it, right, and preserve it, purify it, and packed for the use, right? So this is how the evaporation is being applied on separating the salt from the water, from the liquid, right? Now next is condensation. Now what is condensation, kids? In this process, the reserve of evaporation. In the evaporation, a liquid is converted from vapor into vapor by heating, where in the condensation, vapor converted into liquid by cooling, right? What happens in the evaporation? We boil the liquid and it gets evaporated. We have already studied in the previous classes, right? What is evaporation, right? And condensation is we are converting the water vapor into liquid on cooling. It happens when the temperature is down, right? To understand the process of condensation, let us take some water in a kettle. Now turn the gas on and the water start boiling and the steam is coming or vapor is coming from the spout of the kettle, right? Now what we need to do is, this is the process of evaporation. The kettle is kept on the burner, water is boiling and the gas is turned on. As soon as the water is boiled, the vapors are made and it is coming out of the spout of the kettle, right? This is evaporation. Now what we need to do, just take any metal plate and keep some ice cubes on it and hold this plate near the spout of the kettle. So what will happen, the vapor, as soon as it reaches to the plate of metal, it cools down. The vapors cools down and again it will change into water droplets and you can collect in this beaker or any container, right? So similarly, it is being happening in the water cycle, right? Water gets evaporated with the help of sunlight. It goes up and it condenses and changes into droplets, right? And it forms the clouds, right? So similarly, it is being happening, and after that precipitation we see it, and now it is water vapor is changing into liquid, right? It condenses, cools and forms water drops. Collect the water drops falling from the plate in a beaker. The vapor is converted into liquid by the process of condensation. So the evaporation, liquid is converting into water vapor, and this process, the condensation, in this water vapors are being changed into liquid. Now, use of more than one method to separate the mixture. Sometimes more than two substances are mixed together, so we need to separate these substances. So we need to apply different methods to separate different substances. For example, if we have a mixture of salt, sand and water, so what we will apply? We will apply sedimentation first, decantation, and then evaporation, right? So decantation, we can separate. First we will let the this water to settle down for some time. Sedimentate, we can with the method of decantation we can separate the sediments from this liquid. Now decantation, and now the water is left, but salt is already there. Salt is dissolved in the water. So what we do is, and we evaporize this liquid, and finally we get the salt, right? So we have separated sand, salt and water. So we can apply many methods also at a time to separate more mixed things. The concept of solubility of substances. We know that many solids like salt, sugar and soda dissolve easily in water and make a clear solution. But can any amount of soluble substances can be dissolved in a fixed amount of liquid? It means क्या हम और ज्यादा सब्सटेंस डिसॉल्व कर सकते हैं एक गिवन लिक्विड में? Suppose you have a glass of water and now you are adding sugar into it. You have put 1 spoon of sugar and you dissolved it. It got dissolved. After that, you again put one more spoon of sugar into it. You dissolved it. It got dissolved. A third spoon will also get dissolved, but you are keep adding the sugar into this water, right? What will happen at a certain level? It won't get dissolved more. So this is the point when you can't add more solid and to dissolve it. Let's see a saturated solution. This is the solution which cannot dissolve any more substance into it at the given temperature. Temperature plays a role here. If you heat this, as I have already told you, the water with this sugar, now you are putting more sugar into it, you are dissolving it, it got dissolved. But a certain level, it won't get dissolved. You will see the sugar particles are left behind. It is not getting dissolved, right? So this is the sugar solution, and this is the solute. Now more sugar cannot be added into it. So this is called the saturated solution. Saturated solution means more solid would not get dissolved in it, right? The maximum amount of substance that can be dissolved in a fixed amount of water at a particular temperature, which is called the solubility of the substance. Solubility of the substance, right? Now, when temperature is high, when you keep this solution or you will keep the temperature high, so it might happen that you can add one more spoon of sugar into it or two more spoon of sugar into it. It will get dissolved in it, but if you are increasing the temperature, right? But when it gets cooled down, you will see some crystal of sugar that are left on the bottom of the container. So this is called the crystallization, right? This happens and this is called the crystallization. But why this happened, kids? Why we added more sugar in a saturated solution? We added and we increased the temperature. So because of the temperature, the molecules were like इधर उधर भागने लगे तेजी से and more sugar was adjusted into it. But when it got cooled down, you will find this crystallization or the crystals of sugar at the bottom of the container. Right? This happens because liquid particles have some spaces between them. When a solid with small particles is added to it, so it got adjusted. The spaces were filled. You can understand like this. This is a container, right? This is in which saturated solution is filled. Saturated solution is filled. Now you are adding more sugar into it and you have increased the temperature also, right? Increase the temperature, right? What will happen? The molecule, the spaces which is there, the more sugar is added, right? But when it gets cooled down, right, you will find the crystals of sugar, right? So which is not dissolved. So this is about the crystallization. We have already done it, right? Now this is the table. We have just have a look of this table. This is the type of mixture method to be used, reason why we have chosen this method, and the example of the substances that we can separate. Solid and solid mixture, we can use the hand picking, threshing, winnowing and sieving. And the reason why we have chosen this methods, because these are different in size, shape and color, different in strength, weight, and there is a difference in size too. So what all we can separate these by these methods: stones and rice, grains and stalk, husk and grains, stones and sands. Now the next is insoluble solid, solid with the liquid mixtures. Sedimentation, decantation and filtration can be used. So there is a difference in solubility and heaviness. Very fine particles you can separate it with the help of filtration. So what all we can separate, you can see in the examples. Now soluble solid with the liquid mixtures, we can separate it with the methods of evaporation and condensation, right? So we have already done in the detail. Hope you have understood all the methods. These are very easy to understand. It takes time, but it's very easy to understand, and you can use these methods into your day-to-day life. So let's recall what we have learned. Most of the substances around us are the mixture of two or more substances, right? The method of separation is selected on the basis of properties in which the components differ, right? As I told you that we have already discussed the physical properties, chemical properties we will learn in the higher classes. Husk is separated from the grains by the process of winnowing. Heavy insoluble impurities are removed by sedimentation and decantation, right? The solubility of solute increases with the increases of temperature. Alright, so it's time for the question answers. We have short questions. I know you have understood this chapter well. You all are very intelligent and you can quickly give me the answer of this question, right? So let's start with the first question. When do we use the hand picking method? Right? When do we use? When we have the small quantity of mixed substances or the mixture and the color and the size are different. In sieving, which property of component of the mixture is used for separation? The property means size. The small size particles will come down, and the heavy, the substances which is big in size, not heavy, which is big in size, would be left on sieve. Which method is used to obtain common salt from sea? It is none other than evaporation. Name the process of obtaining solid from its solution after cooling. It is crystallization. Name the material which is used to separate the fine solid particles from the water. You can use sedimentation and decantation. How do we call a solution which cannot dissolve any more solid at given temperature, which is called the saturated solution? Right, kids? So that's all for this chapter. Hope you have enjoyed this session. Now you will apply these methods into the daily life and you will easily identify which method needs to apply, right? So stay excited for the clamp of another videos. See you in the next class of science. Till then, bye and take care of yourselves.